I used to believe that Silicon Valley was built on innovation, merit, and the grind. That if you worked hard, stayed loyal, and played your cards right, you'd rise. I was wrong. My name is Nathan. I was a lead software architect at Virion Technologies, a billion-dollar AI startup in Palo Alto, the kind of company that made headlines every time we released a beta. And I wasn't just some coder, I was one of the founding team members, the guy who helped build the very core of their machine learning framework. And my boss, Jeremy Voss, the Golden Boy CEO who smiled for Forbes covers while others did the real work behind the scenes. Jeremy always said we were a family. He gave speeches about loyalty, passion, and building the future. But let me tell you something. In Silicon Valley, loyalty is currency, and some people spend it like it's free. It started with small signs, my wife, Marissa, acting strangely, distant, guarded. She used to text me during the day, send me dumb memes or ask when I'd be home, but lately she was cold. Said she was busy with her art clients, even though her work hours hadn't changed. I chalked it up to stress. We'd just moved into a new townhouse in Los Gatos, and I was working insane hours trying to deliver our latest product update to investors. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Tuesday. I'd left the office late, almost 10 p.m. Jeremy had invited some of us to celebrate another round of funding at a VC dinner in the city. I didn't go. I was exhausted. I just wanted to be home. But when I pulled into our driveway, I noticed something strange. A black Mercedes SUV parked 2 houses down. It was late and the street was quiet. But something about that SUV, it felt familiar. Jeremy drove the same one. I walked into the house. It was too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your skin crawl. "Marissa!" I called out. No answer. I climbed the stairs slowly, heart racing for reasons I couldn't explain. The master bedroom door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open, and there he was, Jeremy Voss, my boss, the man I'd built a company with, in my bed, with my wife. They didn't even notice me at first. I froze. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. For a split second, time stopped. Then Marissa screamed. Jeremy grabbed for his pants. I didn't shout. I didn't attack. I just turned around and walked out. The betrayal burned hotter than anything I'd ever felt. I wasn't just cheated on. I was betrayed by the man I'd helped make rich and powerful, and the woman I thought I'd build a life with. But here's the thing. I didn't confront them that night. I didn't blow up or cry or post some dramatic message on social media. Because in that moment, something inside me snapped, and a new version of me was born. One that didn't believe in forgiveness, one that didn't want justice. I wanted revenge, and Silicon Valley was the perfect place for it. The next morning, I arrived at work before anyone else. The air in the office was too still, too clean, like nothing had happened. Like my world hadn't just crumbled the night before. I walked into my glass-walled corner office, sat down, and stared at my dual monitor setup. Jeremy's face smiled back at me from a company-wide newsletter on one of the screens. A press blurb congratulating him on securing another $80 million in Series D funding. The rage inside me boiled, but again, no outburst, no explosion, just calculation. I made a list. I wrote it down on a notepad in cold, methodical bullets. 1. Get copies of all financial activity Marissa touched. 2. Start gathering dirt on Jeremy. Affairs, bribes, backroom deals. 3. Find out who on the board owes me. 4. Don't act emotionally. Use leverage. Use timing. Jeremy didn't show up at the office until noon. When he passed my desk, he had the audacity to give me a fake little smile, like nothing had happened, as if I hadn't walked in on him committing the ultimate betrayal. I smiled back, and that smile, it probably scared him more than a punch would have, because I knew something Jeremy didn't. I had the keys to the kingdom. You see, when you're the architect of a company's proprietary technology, you know where all the pressure points are. You know what makes the system run, and more importantly, what can break it. That week, I played it cool. I did my job. I even joined Jeremy for a team lunch on Thursday. He talked about our future expansion into Europe. I nodded. I congratulated him. But behind my eyes, I was already planning his collapse. Marissa kept calling me. I ignored her. I wasn't done setting the stage yet. On Friday, I met with Claire, our head of finance. Claire and I go way back, before the startup even existed. She's sharp, loyal, and more importantly, she never liked Jeremy. Over coffee at a quiet spot in Mountain View, I laid it out. I'm not asking you to break any laws, I told her, but I need to know how Jeremy's been spending company money, especially the discretionary accounts. She blinked twice, then nodded slowly. You're planning something, aren't you? I didn't answer. That weekend, I started assembling a package. Emails, voice recordings, screenshots of Jeremy's encrypted Slack messages to Marissa. He had used the company's internal messaging system. What a rookie mistake. I also pulled up old email threads where I was credited for major algorithm breakthroughs. And then saw Jeremy presenting them to the board as his own work. Fraud, sexual misconduct, abuse of power. All the seeds of a corporate implosion sitting in my Dropbox. I was patient. I didn't release anything yet. Because I wanted more than just exposure. I wanted him to feel the slow pull of the noose. And next week, I had a meeting with 2 key board members. I was going to tell them a story, not of betrayal, but of a CEO who thought he could get away with everything, until the engineer he underestimated decided to fight back. Monday came like any other, but something in the air had shifted. The hum of the office was the same, the espresso machine still hissed in the corner, and yet I could sense it, the calm before a storm I had quietly built. I walked into the boardroom at exactly 10 a.m. Inside sat Ellen Marks and Victor Liu, 2 of the most influential board members. Ellen was old-school venture capital, tough as nails, with a reputation for sniffing out rot in a startup before anyone else. I have Victor, ex-Apple executive, calculated, obsessed with legacy and results. I knew both had no love for Jeremy. They tolerated him because of results. Until now. I plugged in my laptop and began. No pleasantries. I'm going to show you something that will make you uncomfortable, I said. But if you care about this company and your reputations, you'll hear me out. First, I showed them the Slack logs. Jeremy messaging Marissa during board meetings, sharing confidential notes with her, mocking Ellen's questions. Ellen's jaw clenched. Then, the expenses. Dinners charged to the company for investor relations that were actually rendezvous with Marissa at Napa Resorts. Uber receipts at odd hours from her address to Jeremy's condo. Are we seriously paying for his mistress to Uber to his place? Victor muttered. Then, the worst part, I played an audio clip. Jeremy recorded during a casual hallway chat, bragging to our CTO about how the board wouldn't care if he was screwing a kangaroo as long as the numbers looked good. Silence. I sat back. I've got more, I said, but this is enough to force a vote of no confidence. Ellen exhaled slowly. Why now? Because he crossed a line, I replied. Not a lie, but not the full truth. Victor shook his head. We can't afford a scandal mid-series D. I'm not leaking this, I said. I want this company to survive. I want Jeremy gone. Quietly. They stared at me, then at each other. We'll call an emergency session, Ellen finally said. I walked out of that boardroom knowing one thing. Jeremy's countdown had started. That afternoon, Jeremy burst into my office. You backstabbed me, he hissed. No, I said calmly. You did that to yourself. You think they'll side with you? I built this company. I stood, looked him dead in the eyes. No, Jeremy, I did. You just took credit. He slammed the door as he left. I smiled. Let him rage. Let him scramble. Because tomorrow the board would vote. And he had no idea what else I had waiting. The emergency board meeting was set for 9 a.m. sharp. Jeremy showed up looking rattled, but still tried to carry himself with the swagger of a man in control. He wore his usual fitted blazer and a smug half-smile, but his eyes kept darting toward Ellen and Victor. He knew. He didn't know everything. Not yet, but he knew enough to be nervous. I took my seat at the oval-shaped table directly across from him. There were 10 of us in the room, all of them decision-makers. Legal counsel dialed in on speaker. The head of HR sat quietly with a tablet in hand. No assistants, no distractions. Just us and the truth that was about to surface. Ellen began. This emergency session has been called to address critical allegations of misconduct by the CEO. The board has reviewed preliminary evidence. We'll open the floor to further discussion. Victor nodded at me. Go ahead. I stood. As most of you know, I've worked closely with Jeremy since the beginning. I've had a front row seat to both his strengths and his shortcomings. I'm not here to discredit the past, but we cannot ignore the present. I walked them through the full extent of Jeremy's unethical behavior, the inappropriate relationship with Marissa, misuse of company funds, neglect of investor duties, and the toxic culture he created behind the scenes. I even shared emails Jeremy thought he had deleted, ones Marissa forwarded to herself in panic when things went south between them. I had retrieved them, legally. You think you're untouchable because you built this company, I said, now turning to Jeremy. But this company is more than one man. It's people who believed in a mission, people you've disrespected. Jeremy exploded. This is a witch hunt. You've been jealous since day one. I gave you everything, and you stabbed me in the back. Ellen raised a hand. That's enough, Jeremy kept shouting until Victor leaned into his mic. Let the record show that Mr. Whittaker is displaying behavior consistent with the accusations presented. Jeremy's eyes darted toward the door. You're not firing me. No one responded. Ellen turned to HR. Do we have the vote count? HR nodded. 8 in favor of immediate removal, 2 abstain. Jeremy stood, stunned. His voice cracked. You can't do this. Victor looked him dead in the eye. You already did this. To yourself. Security was called. They didn't manhandle him, but they made sure he packed up and left. It was over, just like that. The king of Silicon Valley, dethroned in 1 hour flat. I stepped outside and took a long breath. The air felt lighter. Colleagues who hadn't spoken to me in weeks nodded as I passed. The respect I'd earned back wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice. I didn't smile until I walked past Jeremy's reserved parking spot, now empty, and saw the sign had already been taken down. The day after Jeremy's removal, a strange silence filled the office. The kind of stillness that follows a storm. No shouting in the hallway, no power plays, no unnecessary meetings. For the first time in a long while, people were actually working, but the silence didn't last long. I was summoned to Victor's office. The door was already ajar, as if he'd been waiting for me. Close it, he said. I stepped in. Victor stood by the window, looking down at the city like a general surveying the battlefield. You did the company a favor, he said, not turning to me yet. I did what was necessary, I replied. He turned and smiled. A rare thing from Victor. You've earned this, I blinked. Earned what? Interim Chief Strategy Officer, effective immediately. My stomach dropped. You're serious? He handed me a folder. You were the only one who stood up. We need people like you at the top. It wasn't the CEO chair, not yet. But it was a step into the inner sanctum, the room where futures are shaped and decisions ripple across markets. I walked out of that office feeling like a new man, not because of a title, but because I had proven something to myself. I could fight back and win with integrity. But the real surprise came later that week. I got a LinkedIn message from Jeremy's old assistant. It read, You might want to see what he posted. I clicked the link. Jeremy had written a long rage-fueled post blaming corporate politics for his downfall. He made himself out to be the victim of luxury envy, claiming people hated him because he had nicer things, like watches and cars. I laughed. The irony was delicious. He had fired me because of my Rolex, a symbol of success. And now he was using the same excuse to explain his downfall. I didn't reply, I didn't comment, I didn't need to, because success is the loudest silence. In the coming weeks, morale rose. People started working with purpose again. We launched a new project, one Jeremy had shelved, and it was an instant hit. I was now in meetings that once excluded me. I had a seat at the table, not just because of revenge, but because I had built a reputation based on results, not resentment. One afternoon, while preparing for a major investor call, I walked past the executive boardroom where Jeremy once ruled. I stopped and looked inside. Empty chair, clean desk, faint ghost of arrogance still hanging in the air. I smirked, then kept walking forward. 6 months had passed since Jeremy's dramatic fall from grace. The company had not only stabilized, it thrived. Revenue was up, investor confidence was strong, and employee retention, the best it had been in years. My days were now spent reviewing venture proposals, leading high-level strategic meetings and helping rebuild a culture that had once been poisoned by ego and fear. One crisp Monday morning, Victor summoned me. Again, his office door was open, this time with a smile on his face. "We've made our decision," he said. I arched an eyebrow. "About what?" He stood, walked over, and handed me an embossed envelope. Inside, a formal offer. CEO. Full-time, permanent. I couldn't believe it. I had walked into this company years ago as a product lead. I had been laughed at, dismissed, even fired. For owning a Rolex, for driving a Tesla, for simply daring to live the life I'd earned. Now I was being handed the reins. Victor clapped a hand on my shoulder. "You never stopped building. Not just the company, but people. That's what we need now." I nodded, 1,000 thoughts racing through my mind. But one thought, one face returned to me. Jeremy. He had vanished from tech circles. Last I heard, he tried to start a consulting firm, but couldn't land clients. No one trusted him. Some people even joked that he was working retail, luxury watches, of all things. Fitting. That Friday, I stood before the entire company in our new all-hands meeting. People cheered as Victor announced the leadership transition. I took the stage. My first words, "I wasn't supposed to be here." A pause. I was the guy with the Rolex. The guy some people said didn't look like leadership. But here's the truth. What you wear doesn't define your worth. What you do, does. The applause was real, not polite, not forced, but earned. I continued. This isn't just about me. It's about us. About what we can build when ego gets out of the way. Let's lead with clarity, not cliques. Let's reward merit, not manipulation. And let's never forget what happens when the wrong people have power. After the meeting, people lined up to shake my hand. Some were teary, some brought their kids to meet the new CEO. And as I looked around the lobby, glass, steel, sunlight, I thought, this wasn't just revenge. It was redemption. It was legacy. Sometimes the people who try to tear you down are the ones most afraid of your potential. When they come for you, stay focused, stay kind, and above all, stay building. Because your success will always speak louder than their sabotage. Thank you so much for watching this story. If it inspired you, if it moved you, or if it just made you say, "Damn, that was good," please don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video with a friend who needs motivation. We've got more powerful stories coming. Until next time, keep going. Your revenge is success.